The ripple effect here is that the D-backs have other guys in the same situation who are pending free agents, mainly Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. And that's where the Marlins connection comes in. The fact that we'll see if they end up trading both of them. They don't have to trade them because they could, if they want to, they can make a qualifying offer to them after the year and then eventually recoup a compensatory draft pick that way. So it's not like a guarantee that both of those guys are going to move, but it does introduce a couple extra names on the market for teams looking for starting pitching. Even if now it's a complicated case because Gallen himself is having a really bad year, similar to not in a different way than Sandy too, in ways that are kind of concerning. But of course, in terms of the overall numbers, they're a little bit prettier. So they're just other options for teams to consider. Other ones that because they're about to be free agents, they're rentals. Like those, you're not going to have to give up your very best prospects in order to get them. Whereas when you're talking about whether it's Edward or Sandy, in either case, because of the years of control, because of the upside that they have, it's going to be a lot more expensive in terms of talent to give up. That it just introduces the possibility that it makes it less likely, in my opinion, that the Marlins end up trading Eddie and Sandy. It certainly, in my mind, makes it, I can't believe they're going to trade both of them. I don't see that scenario coming right now. But even one of them, to me, it's not a total lock, just depending on how many of these other, how much more the market gets saturated with other starting pitchers like this, where even contending teams as competitive as they are, that they hug their prospects. And if they see other options on the market that just save them a lot more prospect talent, and even if those guys are going to be pending free agents, I think more often than not, that's why once the dust settles on this stuff, a lot of the moves, the majority of all trade deadline activity revolves around rentals. That's the majority of all these moves because these teams are still hugging their prospects and they're going to default to the guys that don't cost you your prospects if they believe that those rentals can actually help them win. So that's kind of the ripple effect here. So we'll see how it plays out overall. But it is one of my concerns. I think even though you could say that in one sense, I guess it's fun to potentially finish ahead of the D-backs, to be in a position where that's a possibility. That would be pretty crazy to think about entering the year. I think the bigger picture is the Marlins want to make the best moves they possibly can. And it doesn't really help them, the fact that the D-backs are now competing with them in terms of having starting pitching available.
I don't know. I still think some teams I still think the rentals are expensive enough that a team would rather sacrifice their prospects. I don't think there's a difference in the prospect talent that they would rather have the years of control for the person that they're acquiring rather. So I hope that keeps Miami in a sort of in the driver's seat when it comes to the seller's market, because if I'm a buying team, if I'm going to give up a good prospect anyway, I'd rather get someone that I would have multiple years, not just a rental in what Gallen would be. And I guess at least the Cubs have gone out and said that they're not going to be prospect hugging. So I guess that really helps out the Marlins and saying that they are not going to hold on to their top young guys. The one guy that was not mentioned was Owen Casey, who I think would be everyone's dream scenario for the Marlins for either Sandy or Cabrera. But yeah, I agree with you, Eli. It's going to be tough. I was really hoping the Diamondbacks went on a little bit of a run and foolishly standed pat and decided to buy, but unfortunately, that was not the case.
I did see, I was watching Foul Territory with Ken Rosenthal, and he did note that the Diamondbacks, similar to the Marlins, will probably just trade one of Merrill, Kelly, and Gallen, which I found interesting. But he did note that they do need starting pitching to finish out the season, which, again, found interesting. But, hey, I mean, you need pitching to play the game. So he says that he thinks the one that they'll move is Gallen, which obviously for the Marlins, it's not great because that's probably the guy with a little bit more value. Knowing, he does have more bounce back potential. Merrill Kelly's about to be 37 or is already 37 years old, and he thinks the Diamondbacks have a better chance of re-signing him. So I don't know. Marlins are in an interesting situation. I don't see them trading both Cabrera and Sandy. I think they move on from one. And I think the most likely one to be moved on from is Sandy. Although I think Isaac noted this at the start of the show, I'd much rather them move on from Cabrera and keep Sandy, hoping that he could regain some value for 2026, unless the Marlins are in a different situation. But obviously, I think, as Eli noted, hopefully they'd make the best moves, and hopefully there are some good prospects that we could add to the top 30 list come August 1st.
And contrary to what you like, I do see a world where they trade both. I think they have to sell high on Cabrera. I think the Marlins, they've tried to trade this player before. They finally are in the driver's seat and they can really get a lot for this player. They can get I don't want to say franchise altering haul, like that's a Juan Soto type deal, but you can get a really, really impressive haul for this young man who's got 3 years of control left, who's pitching the best baseball of his entire career. It's been reported that teams would trust him in the playoffs in game 1 of a postseason series. I think you can get a significant haul for this young man. And Sandy, it looks like he's been already notified that he probably will be traded at some point. And Miami, it's going to be tough to patchwork the rest of the season when it comes to innings. You're going to have Yuri. I think Juancho has pitched himself also to get traded, unless he performs really badly today. You're going to have Jansen Jung.
Good chance for that.
You're going to have to give Valente Biozo another shot at it. You got Tarnik. And then you can call up Adam Mazer again. I believe he will be the first one up after the deadline, from what I understand. And I think, I got Snelling. So it won't be a complete disaster, but I do see a world where both of them are dealt and Miami's left without Edward and Sandy, which is just hard to fathom.
I had not. The thing is in my mind, so I forget to group them all together. But yes, Cal Quantrill exists. He's on the team. In fact, he's a rental as well. So he's the one that they are most motivated to get something in return if they can. But maybe they can't. I think they will be able to.
Yeah,
I do say with confidence, I don't think all 3 of them are getting traded. If they end up getting offers that they can't refuse for both Eddie and Sandy, then I think they keep Quantrill just to eat innings down the stretch.
I can see them just moving all 3.
I can see them. Unlikely.
Unlikely, but you never know with this team.
We're going to be seeing Patrick Monteverde starting games down the stretch if that happens.
Yeah, that's what it means. That's what I mean.
It'll be Mazer, Snelling, Beyozo, Yuri.
Jansen Junk is in there too.
Morgan McSweeney maybe gets a shot.
Yeah.
He's been good.
I mean, and you don't know who you get in return for these guys. Maybe you get a major league ready starting pitcher as one of the returns for Yuri. I'm sorry, for
similar to the Trevor Rogers trade. They got 2 major league ready guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've
seen
these guys.
I'm coming back to this because I think what people can agree on is because the way the team has performed this year, it is realistic to look at 2026 as a year where they could be competitive from the get-go. And it ultimately comes down to that, where they just can't take for granted that you can replace both Sandy and Eddie with other guys in the system that are definitely going to be as good next year. It's a possibility, but that's not something I would not be a fan of that when they have this many years of control. You pick one of them that, in my mind, you hold on to the one that you feel more confident in retaining his value or even building up his value in the second half. You got to make that guess in terms of which one of them you trust more, and it's a complicated calculus in terms of which one of them you think is more legit at this stage, interesting stages of their respective careers. Then you reevaluate it later on. I just feel like trading both of them at this deadline, that it's from, even if you get the value you're looking for, you ultimately are trying to put together a competitive team, and they took a big step in that direction this year. So this is a creative front office, and you ultimately got to see how everything fits together before the dust settles. But I can understand why that'd be really unpopular if they move both of them at the same time. And I would still be very surprised if that happens.
I agree. It would be a tough look. And if it were, I know no one asked, but if it were me, best case scenario would be Miami trade Edward Cabrera and Cal Quantrill this deadline. You hold on to Sandy. You don't sell low. I know he's coming up with 7 innings of 1 run, unearned, 0 earned runs allowed. And you go into 2026 with a rotation of Sandy, Yuri, Weathers, Braxton Garrett, Max Meyer. And I think and Adam Mazer, Robbie Snelling, Thomas Wright will be ready at some point next year.
Well, not according to an MLB.com writer.
And I think if, let's say, Sandy continues to pitch the way he did against San Diego the rest of this year, you can revisit those talks in the offseason. I still think it's hard to argue to not trade him later instead of just now, because it's tough. And you need some money on the books for 2026. And you trade Sandy, that's $17 million.
Not necessarily. I mean, you could trade him, keep the money, and hold on to that money, right? And take you mean take over, pay the contract, keep the salary, I guess. Yeah, what they do with the Riot.
And that's what they would probably do. That's probably what they'd have to
do.
They have
to do, yeah.
But
I do remember being surprised last deadline about JT Chagua getting traded and thinking
William
that he
Schomburg, baby.
no, and I don't think he's playing. I don't even think he's playing baseball anymore
You know,
this year after being traded last year. But
bounce around.
Who did Miami get?
William Schomburg.
Oh, that's right.
He's fine. There's nothing special.
just minor league depth arm that's starting games in High A Beloit currently.